plum juice today, which also means I'm making plum butter. I really like the fruit butters because they tend to be really smooth, they have less sugar and more of the spices than your standard jams, but you use them in many of the same ways. Because of the spices, I also feel like you can use your butters when you're eating meat. Chicken breast is a famous one for me to try all kinds of different fruit butters on. When I'm making juice with a steam juicer, the juice collects in the center and the pulp remains at the top of the unit. Now for this recipe, I need 6 pounds worth of plums and I get the pulp from those. So then I take that pulp and I place it into my blender. If I didn't have a steamer juicer and I still wanted to make this, all I would have to do is cut my plum pieces up to small pieces and put them on the stove with a little bit of water and try to get them to slowly soften down. The hard thing about that is then you end up with a lot more water in it, and so you have to cook it down for a lot longer later, whereas I'll almost immediately have the right texture on mine. The next step is to blend these up because I want those skins nice and fine and mixed in with the rest. Then I place my plum puree into my pot. You can see just how smooth it is here. You can't see any of those skins. They're pretty thin anyway, but it just makes a big difference. Then I'll add 2 cups of brown sugar, 2 cups of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and half of a teaspoon of ground cloves. And then I'll place this on the stove and cook it until it's thick. It won't take very long because of the fact that I've taken out so much of the juice already. You can tell that your plum butter is done when it mounds up when you put it on a spoon. Let's see if I can show you here. See, it mounds up nicely, and that's how thick you want it, so that when you put it on toast, it won't slide right off. So then I'll take my butter and I'll place it into 1/2 pint jars up to 1/2 of an inch of headspace. Headspace is a space from the top of the food to the top of the jar. It really has such a nice texture and it just smells so good. And it's always a good idea to use a spatula, especially with the butters. I use a clean damp cloth to wipe off the rim of the jars so that if any butter got on the edge, that it won't interfere with the seal. And then I place my lids and rings on until they're fingertip tight. I'm using Superb canning lids today, and I actually really like these. I feel like they do a super good job sealing to my jars, and they're really thick, feeling like they have a much thicker quality than a lot of the cheaper ones that I've used in the past. I have a link as well as a 20% off discount code in my description below. Now I'll process these in my boiling water bath, submerged by 1 to 2 inches of water, and I'll process them for 10 minutes if I'm at sea level. I'm at 1,200 feet, so I'll process them for 15, but I won't start my timer until after it begins to boil. Now that the timer's gone off, I remove the lid, turn off the heat, and let it cool for 5 minutes. I remove my jars from the canner and place them on a heat-resistant surface about 1 to 2 inches apart. I'll leave them there for 24 hours so that they can get a good seal. I can tell that they have a good seal if the center of the lid has depressed down. If it has, then I remove the ring, wash off the outside with hot soapy water, and store them in a cool, dry, dark location like my pantry and use them in the next 1 to 3 years. If I have any that didn't seal, I would place them in the refrigerator and use them right away. The taste tester. I really like it. It has this lovely smooth texture, those warm spices of clove and cinnamon, and then it's sweet. It's just perfect for so many different things.